Radio for Skaro.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Radio Free Skaro, episode number 780. I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
This is the final part of our three-part miniscope on Doctor Who director Rachel Talalay, covering off World Enough in Time, The Doctor Falls, and Twice Upon a Time.
Twice Upon a Time.
I have to think about those all the time. Yeah.
Those last three Capaldi stories there.
Yeah, the last three Capaldi stories are finally getting done. Yeah, it's been nice that Rachel herself has been like, I mean, that's what we tag her in every single tweet. So it's just like, fine, I'll retweet this.
Enough.
Maybe
Leave
even
me alone, you fiends.
Maybe even comment on it. So
the restraining order is on its way, I'm sure.
Possibly. Well, we're very nice about it. That's the thing. Like, here's the thing: if we were doing a miniscope on someone we didn't like.
And we have,
but for the most part, they've passed on, or are not on Twitter.
I'm not really sure how these are both advantageous to us.
Yeah,
I do recall when we did the Bidmead one that Warren made sure to copy Bidmead on a tweet about it. And
did I? I don't think I did.
Someone did because he listened.
You did.
So I think someone else. I think it was a listener. I think who tagged him on there.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done that on purpose.
Yeah,
I might have done it by mistake, but I don't think I did on purpose.
I mean, unless you tweet by mistake, with some frequency.
I don't know if you do or not.
It's possible.
But
yeah.
Pretty sure it's you.
Didn't he do an itemized breakdown of okay?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, it was true Bidmead
As
fashion.
only Bidmead could.
Yeah.
He went full Bidmead.
So the fact that we've interviewed Rachel Talalay 7 times or something over the past few years, we've basically had her side of the story anyway. So I feel because Bidmead had turned us down, I think. I remember I wanted to get Bidmead on the podcast for an interview, and he'd said, no, I've talked enough about Doctor Who and stuff, and of course, he hasn't. He's come back for the Blu-rays.
That was before the season 18.
Years before the season 18 Blu-ray, yeah.
And he did it. What was the other Blu-ray writers bar thing?
He was 19 too, wasn't he? Was he 19
as well?
I can't remember now.
I mean, 19 would make sense because he wrote Castrovalva, but
yeah, and
I want to say maybe he was even on another one. I can't remember.
It would only have to be 19 right now because 21's not out yet, and that Frontios would be on that, and I'm sure he'll be all over that, being Frontios' only fan.
Mm-hmm. I mean, somebody's got to like it, right?
Yeah, you're right.
I know. Speaking of Blu-ray sets, we talked about season 24 last episode, and thinking that it'll take forever for this thing to show up on Amazon for us to pre-order like it did with season 8. But here in Canada, it's available for pre-order on Amazon, and I leapt on it. I was like, "What? How is this already here already?"
So, no release date yet, but
no.
The pre-order's there.
No, I have heard I know people in the States who've said we've pre-ordered season 24 on Amazon.com, but it's not there. We searched for it just before recording here on a Thursday afternoon. So I don't know if it disappeared from there or if people accidentally went to the Canadian site and ordered it from there.
I've done that with American stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, I'm pleased. I'm pleased that I have now pre-ordered both Blu-ray sets. I mean, doesn't mean it's going to arrive when they say it's going to arrive.
I don't trust anything where Canada comes out ahead.
No, not right now.
You're one step closer to your 25 hours of raw studio footage.
I'm so excited. There's 8 discs on that thing. I think one disc is devoted entirely to.
How can you be sustainably excited over 24 hours?
Listen, I am.
He's very tantric about it, I'm sure.
I am told that there could have probably been more as well, but they could only fit so much on a disc. So really, I mean, you can chop out. Maybe you just leave Paradise Towers off the disc. You don't have it at all, and you just put another 25 hours of raw studio footage in there instead.
Can we leave off Time in the Rani and replace its 90 minutes with studio footage?
I just want what I think they should have done is they should have just done the pre-effects versions of all of them, because I want to see what that's like, because I watched...
The effects are the only good thing about Time of the Rhine. Come on.
No, maybe with just the effects. Just the effects. Like,
well, that's why we had Who Effects on to talk Time of the Rhine.
I have a new respect for Time of the Rhine to a point because of that.
I know. Well, you have a new, even more of a new respect for it when the Blu-ray comes out, Warren.
How
I
much?
won't, because I'm not going to buy it.
Yeah, I know.
How much of that Time of the Rhine studio footage is going to be Sylvester McCoy touching Kate O'Mara's chest?
Hopefully that's one of the 25 hours that was probably excised from it. I feel like
But you're going to find out because you're going to watch all 25.
Yeah, I feel like 1987 predates HR departments. So it's just don't ask about things. Well, do ask.
I can't see Kate O'Mara putting up with that. I can see her try to decapitate him for that.
I think we're starting rumors here at this point, but
we might be,
because I know he did play
specifically Chris is.
Chest, yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you want? Do you want to know what happened this week in history? It's a very important week, obviously, because it's the week of my birthday. It's coming up on Wednesday.
It is. Yes.
I was born.
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
Happy birthday!
I was born 2 days after the highest-rated Doctor Who episode in the history of the classic series, Ark in Space.
Ark in Space Part 2.
Clearly, there's a connected somehow.
I think so. I don't know when my mom went into labor. I know I was born early in the morning, like quarter.
She saw the ratings.
20 to
such a shock.
20 to 2 in the morning on February 3rd here in Canada. So 7 hours. So
In 1975, she did her usual thing of looking up the Barb stats.
Exactly. Look at this appreciation index. Oh God, he's
do it now.
Get me to the hospital.
Let's do it now. Basically, that's how it happened.
It's not going to get any better than this. Part 3 is going to drop big time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Along with my firstborn.
Yes, exactly. Secondborn, yeah.
Secondborn.
Yeah. I was actually early. I was 6 days early. So I could have been born on, I'm trying to look here. I still wouldn't have been born on any episode. Had I been born on like the 8th, which is the Saturday, I would have been born on the Ark in Space Part 3, but that's as close as I can get.
This is something you've regretted your whole life, isn't it? Just like how when I found out the moon landing happened a year before I was born, I was very bitter. I still remain bitter about the fact that I didn't get to see it.
Did we?
But you were bitter about lots of things.
That's true. It's a big list.
Did we determine what episode, Warren, you were born near? I think it was December 15th,
December 15th.
70,
so
right?
70, yeah. So
the closest episode would be Spearhead 1, no?
Oh, no. The closest would be Terror of the Autons.
Or War Games.
2 weeks before Terror of the Autons, roughly.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it wouldn't be War Games because that's 69.
Yeah. So that's so there you go. You predate the Master by like 3 weeks, which is not too bad.
Wow. Yeah. What a thing to be proud of.
But,
which I'm not.
Frontios episode 4 did go out on your birthday.
Oh, my actual birthday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well then.
I know.
Take it all back.
Speaking of Frontios.
Yeah, the Armageddon Part 3 also, Armageddon Factor Part 3 also went out on my, so when I was born, it went out, I mean, Web of Fear Part 1 and Carnival of Monsters Part 2 went out on February 3rd, but I wasn't alive yet, so that doesn't count, but yeah, so I love the Armageddon Factor.
On your 4th birthday, you learned about the Shadow.
I also enjoy the Armageddon Factor.
I love it though. Yeah, but Frontios for some reason has always whenever I see that because it's
not very good. That would be why.
Oh, I know, but it always like Frontios broadcast this date to February 3rd, 1984. And February 3rd, 1984 is the day of my first ever NHL game that I saw in attendance when Pat Hughes scored 5 goals for the Edmonton Oilers in a 10-5 win over Calgary. God, it was a line brawl and it was like the most amazing night. And
you were living in Calgary at the time, weren't you?
I was not living in Calgary. I was living in Camrose at the time. I moved to
Camrose still?
I moved to yes, I didn't move out when I was 9. I'm sorry.
Oh, 9. I'm thinking 19 for
Mom, I'm a hobo now. Where's my stick and handkerchief?
Yeah, no.
His bindle.
Yeah, so anyway, a whole bunch of stories premiered like this week, like this day, the day this episode actually comes out, January 31st. There was Doctor Who and the Silurian, Seeds of Doom, Keeper of Traken, all episodes 1 went out, and then like we said, the Web of Fear went out. Like started like this is I suppose for seasons that start like in January. This is now time for like, the second story of the season. So that's what it was. Yeah. So that's more or less what the week that was. Invasion of Time also started the day after, on the February the 4th, 1978. So
another misunderstood classic.
I agree.
Kinda also began on the 1st of February.
Did. Because this is back when Doctor Who was starting in January and stuff,
Yeah. And also all this Davison stuff. I keep forgetting that it did the whole Monday, Tuesday thing.
I know.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I honestly don't know because it was like Monday, Tuesday, and then they went to like Monday, Wednesday for the second year, didn't they? And it was like Tuesday, Wednesday. I don't remember anymore either.
The whole hour-long thing that they did for Davison's last and Baker's first still throws me for a loop. Like 40-odd years later.
The old...
Where they combined the two together? Like they had 45-minute episodes or whatever?
Oh, Colin Baker. I thought, yeah. I see what you mean.
Wait a minute, did they do that for... No, they didn't. You're right. They didn't do it for Davison. Why did I think that? See, I told you.
They did it
for Resurrection of the Daleks.
Yeah, Resurrection,
Right,
yeah.
that's what it was.
Which is the true version. I mean, I'm just thinking about this when we get... Have we done a commentary for that? We have done a commentary for that. I'm pretty sure.
We must have.
I could look it up.
I can't remember if we did the 2-part version or the 4-part version.
And did we do the one without sound or with sound? Because back in the day on KSPS, they showed the one without sound, and it confused the hell out of me.
I wasn't around for that one, but I do remember when they broadcast The Brain of Morbius. I know I mentioned this in the podcast before, and the omnibus version, part 1 was without sound. There's no sound on it, and that scarred me for life because I thought, I love this era of Doctor Who, apart from The Brain of Morbius, because the first time I saw it, it was like, what is this pantomime play nonsense with no sound effects? It was the dumbest thing I'd ever seen. Brain of Morbius part 1.
Without music or sound effects.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was terrible.
Kondo is just reduced from a tragic Shakespearean figure to a...
Kondo's mix, as in DJ Kondo.
Yeah, DJ Kondo's mix was not
Kondo
good.
like girl.
Well,
Girl. We have not done Resurrection of the Daleks yet for commentary.
what? Oh,
How's
So
we doing?
when we do, we're gonna have to figure out if we're doing the 2 or 4 episode version.
well, all I'm going
to do is rave about Lytton anyway, so...
it's academic now because we split them into halves anyway
Yeah.
across 2 episodes. But
So, with Resurrection, is it beloved or not, or hated? Like, I can't tell.
Both.
I know I love it. I know we all love it.
it's definitely
I think.
both. I watched
Most people hate it.
a lot of people object to the level of violence in it. I know that much.
That's the best part. Come on.
That's the best part.
As a kid, that was the best part. Actually, Johnny Morris on Twitter this past week was watching it, and it was kind of dumping on for the most part because there's some dialogue going on in that story. It has to be said that is like, what is all this?
It's a bit excessive.
It is a bit.
But I mean, for
still
fans of people who can't stand the confusion in their minds,
That's true.
I'm sure this is great.
Everybody hates everybody in Eric Sayward has some unresolved issues.
There
because
really
nobody
is.
likes anybody in these
I know, there's-
things. You're pathetic. I'm like, I always felt sorry for the poor guy, even though he's a Dalek agent. I'm like, that's a little harsh, dude. Come on. You're in a silver jumpsuit. Who are you talking to?
Yeah. God, as a kid, like when I was watching science fiction for battles, because that's what I thought it was Star Wars.
Well, that's like our Buck Rogers, Battlestar Galactica, Star Wars-y kind of like boom, boom, pew, pew kind of.
Buck Rogers' battles are, and seen in the light of day of 2020, not so good.
It's on Blu-ray. There's a new Blu-ray set for Buck Rogers.
Is it streaming anywhere?
That's what I like to know because I no offense to the people who made the Blu-rays on Kino Lorber, I think the ones who did the Dalek films here. But it's like $120, and I don't want to drop $120 sight unseen for a show that I've never really seen before.
It is not good.
Oh,
On a related note, Stephen, are you and Erica gonna revisit this lovely HD remastered Babylon 5?
it's not. Well, it's HD-ish. I did buy it. I bought the whole series on iTunes. I thought, what the hell?
Oh.
Let's do it.
Okay.
It was like $70 for the whole series.
And this is all
It's
up
not
res
bad
and all
for
that.
5 seasons.
It's it's better up res, and what's more important is that the CG model sequences, which were always done 4:3 and SD, are proper for 4:3 SD. So it looks worse in the way that it's 4:3 now, because Babylon 5 was shot 16:9, thinking that they were going to go to widescreen at some point during the make, it never really happened. But the model sequences on computer were done just 4:3. So if you've ever watched,
save the precious rendering time on these bits.
exactly, because they would just crop it off anyway. So why are we paying money for
Otherwise-
this? Yeah.
Otherwise, the video toaster would burn it all.
So
Don't you ever in your life diss the video.
yeah,
Video toaster is awesome.
it's fascinating to watch the DVDs because if you haven't seen the show before, it's a spoiler because every time that the screen suddenly goes really dodgy. You think, there's going to be a CG laser effect coming on here. Someone's about to get shot, and you could tell because the picture quality just drops right down. But
this is the CG version of when they would shoot guns on old BBC stuff, and the screen would vibrate.
Exactly, more or less.
For kinetic weapons, yeah.
Yeah, for kinetic weapons. So yeah, I bought the whole kit and caboodle because I have thought about watching it again because I was on Audio Guide to Babylon 5, the podcast that Chip, Shannon, and Erica they did for a couple 3 or 4 years, I think. And we watched an episode like every 2 weeks, and I was on the odd episode there. But, when you're watching a show like over the course of 4 years, you forget about a lot of it. So I kind of just want to put it on a second screen and just sort of watch it. And now I can with proper, good-looking, HD-ish copies of it on iTunes.
I have it sitting on a hard drive right next to me, and I haven't watched it yet.
Nope.
And so will I spend $70 to not watch it for $70 more? Probably not.
Probably not. Nope. But you will have inferior copies. I guarantee you, Warren.
I watched the pilot at a Star Trek convention in 1993.
Really? Oh, that was brand new. Wow.
Yeah. And that's as far as I've ever gotten with the show. So.
Really?
I want to know what the reaction in 1993 was amongst the Star Trek nerds. Were they angry somebody was horning on their territory, or are they very excited?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Come on.
I don't
It's only
remember.
30 years ago.
The second in command, I don't remember her name, but she was in the pilot episode only and would be replaced by someone else when the show actually came. She turned up as a Vulcan, the main bad Vulcan in Picard. That was her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. I remember thinking,
right.
I recognize her, but not quite, baby. And then I looked up. Yeah, sure enough. So
Wait a minute. Who's the bad Vulcan in, pardon me, Picard?
I don't know. T'Pau. I don't know what their names are, Warren.
Yeah, I can't remember.
That was Enterprise.
I've actually, for all the hype about Picard, I've kind of forgotten about most of it.
Right? I know. Alex Kurtzman, I tell you. Alex Kurtzman. I found something else. Oh, what was it now? It was a show I heard somebody talking about, and he mentioned, the show, and it was quite terrible. Oh, Alex Kurtzman did it. Oh, that's why right there. And I can't remember what show it was now. Anyway.
It wasn't Fringe.
It was not Fringe, but Alex Kurtzman has become my nemesis now. Anything he makes.
I'm sure he knows this and is terrified.
I should do. If he ever takes over Doctor Who, wait, that's it. We pretty much time to wind this sucker down.
Hey, if Chibnall can't kill it, then...
Wow. Okay, that's something.
Hooey. Quiet week in Doctor Who, it must be said. I don't.
Hence all the other banter.
Yeah, I don't.
Yes, that's the endless blather.
I don't know if they're just busy producing the show or not producing it because they do it under a cone of silence, of course. But Big Finish, of course, has stepped in to fill the void with the announcements of Dalek Universes 1, 2, and 3. Pre-orders open. First one comes out in April, second in July, third in October. At some point, everyone will have had 1 or 2 doses of the vaccine, hopefully, by the time each of those come out. The one that's really getting the chatter going on the internet is Dalek Universe 3 because River Song's in it, and she's wearing a Mavellan wig. So what's going on with that? That's what I'd like to know.
It's audio, so she could be doing whatever. She could be wearing, I don't know, a Dalek skirt for all we know, too.
I suppose, but I just find it fascinating. Why is she a Mavellan? Is she, obviously she's in disguise, but I mean, why hasn't anyone else chosen to be in disguise as a Mavellan? I would like to know.
They're so funky. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
This other woman on the artwork, Jane Slavin, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Her outfit looks a little like Sarah Kingdom, Brett Vionish.
Well, that's probably because she plays Anya Kingdom, of course. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So there's a reference
sure.
there. Yeah, but you won't see them though because it's audio. But they're all coming out pre-orders.
But you can imagine.
You can imagine what they look like, and maybe you don't even have to because there they are.
That's
because
kind
David,
of the point, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, David Tennant craves work. And so he has done so much Big Finish now that has he have more Big Finish plays than he has Doctor Who episodes like Tom Baker has now, or
maybe.
is that
That's
haven't
possible.
counted.
yeah, like it's getting there. It's a lot of stuff, but so yeah, those are the things happening. And also Toby Haydock's obituary. Philip Martin, the late great Philip Martin, showed up in the Guardian this past week, which is excellently well done, as all of his obituaries are for a fine chap, and one of my favorite interviews that I did at Gallifrey 1 back in the day when there were Gallifreys 1 and when Philip Martin was there a couple of years ago, I think it was. So.
And people traveled to places other than the supermarket.
Yeah, I know. So Anyway, we're in the midst of this. We're in the midst of it, everyone. Still here in the pandemic. Once again, if you're listening back, if you're binging all the episodes of Radio Free Skaro that you missed over the past 3 or 4 years.
What are you doing? You're already suffering enough. Come on.
We're still in the pandemic, everyone, just so you know. So, all right. Anything else you want to mention, chaps?
That's about it.
No? Okay. Well.
No, that was a pretty empty news list.
Whatever.
Yes, it was.
Whatever. It's all right. It's all preamble to the big event here, of course, which is talking about director Rachel Talalay in the Miniscope.
Could be a theme park from the future. Or we might be inside a Miniscope.
Oh, shut up.
A Miniscope, yes, of course, why not?
Yes, welcome back. It's the finale of our Rachel Talalay Miniscope, our 3-part miniscope. I haven't done a census on how many 3-part miniscopes we've done. I think we did one for Bob Baker and Dave Martin, though, just because of the sheer number of stories, right?
Yeah, and Bob Holmes as well.
Bob Holmes way back in the day, although that's a lot of stories. I feel like had we done a Bob Holmes one now, I've never called him Bob Holmes in my life, but here we go. I feel that would be like a year of, we basically do a story per episode, including Power of Kroll.
Be a maxi-scope is what it would be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Power of Kroll will get its own entire episode talking about Power of Kroll.
As is only right.
Indeed. But today, Rachel Talalay's 3-part finale to Series 10, essentially, if you will, the 2-part finale, and let's call it the coda. Watching it again for like probably the first time in 3 years. I'm not sure I watched Twice Upon a Time since Christmas 2017, but it feels very much like a coda to World Enough in Time and The Doctor Falls. Yes. So yes, boy, those are some episodes, right? Golly, that's some notable stuff once again.
I mean, it's not Hellbent and Heaven Sent, but it's pretty damn decent.
It is. I mean, Heaven Sent is obviously the masterpiece, as you heard last week, but I find that opening shot of World Enough in Time is just like immediately sort of says, okay, this is its own epic thing. Because goodness me, that opening shot grabbed me. And that was a shot that I believe was completed less than a week before broadcast. They were not even done the episode.
Oh, good gravy.
Yeah, it's quite something. But yes, we'll start with Chris, because I feel like Chris probably had more time to watch these episodes than Warren did. So I'm going to start with Chris. Chris, your initial
definitely that's true.
Your initial impressions of World Enough in Time.
I've always been a fan of it, I guess. The first, I didn't make much in the way of notes, but the first bullet point I had on my notes was that high angle shot of Capaldi at the start of the episode,
right? Because
it does kind of grab you right away, sets the stage, as it were. I think I was nothing to do with Talalay, because we always deviate, but I did like Moffat going back to his traditional, part 1 and part 2 have really nothing to do with each other, and you got like big cast and small cast. Like there are 8 credited people in World Enough in Time, and that's it, versus the massive cast of The Doctor Falls.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing about this is it's the same thing with horror and Western. Like this, I don't know if that was intentional, but the same thing plays itself out.
Yeah, completely different genres for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Talalay deals with them both with aplomb, basically.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah. As we talked about last week with her skills when it comes to horror based stuff. God, yeah. That's obviously right in her wheelhouse.
Yeah, I feel the horror background, I think, manifests itself the most in World Enough in Time. Of sure. All her Doctor Who episodes, her horror chops are allowed the chance to shine.
Yes, they are, but also in The Doctor Falls, especially as we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, the scene in the barn with Bill, because the whole. Well, not the whole thing. One of the big drivers in World Enough in Time with Bill getting cybernized and all that is the body horror aspect, and the scene in the barn in The Doctor Falls where Bill gets the mirror, and then before that,
which is the showcase shot of the whole thing, I think.
the woman is just so scared of Bill, but she looks normal. But of course, the woman is seeing the Cyberman. We're seeing Bill. It's just it's done very, very well. But for World Enough in Time, I think this would have happened anyway, with whether it was Rachel Talalay or not. But you talked, Stephen, before we started recording about Michelle Gomez coming out of the TARDIS into the control cockpit and just, hello, I am Doctor Who. Just like her utter madness and over the top insanity and all that with her performance is just amazing.
It's bliss. It's like she's almost, I mean, through the script, she's poking fun at the show itself. This is what comedy, this is exposition. Basically calling the two companions that. Yes, I'm Doctor Who. That's his real name. Like, just it's Moffat really trolling the fans during that little bit, which I kind of appreciate.
Oh yeah, and himself, I think, to a certain extent.
Absolutely, yeah. He throws, he's very comfortable in punching at himself in regards to that. Now, before we go on, I mean, I admit that I never really saw what was wrong with it at the time. That being Bill, a black woman, getting shot in the chest and then having her rage basically being used as a weapon. Obviously, that aspect of the story is not as good, and this is the reason why they sort of moved back from using it as one of those Twitter watch-alongs back in 2020. So we'll just say that here, but we are dealing with the visual and directorial touches when it comes to these episodes, and not necessarily the scripting decisions. So let that be known.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I wouldn't mind just jumping in and talking a bit about chemistry, because Talalay has great chemistry with Gomez in terms of, I think Gomez is at her peak when Rachel Talalay is directing her, and never more so than here, especially in both these, because Gomez has so much to do in this. For one, she's hilarious when she comes out of the TARDIS, but then in the second one, she's almost tragic, right? And she's taking this 40-some-year-old character in terms of screen time and moving it in an entirely new direction. That cannot be easy. While another version is sitting there not doing that. So that is no mean feat in terms of acting and in terms of directing that actor, right? I would say.
Yeah, she is still the master, like the main master, basically. And John Sim is the secondary master at this point. But you never feel like she is fighting for screen time, or is she's a generous actor. I think
which is a credit to Sim too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We mentioned the
but Sim also gets plenty of chances to chew up the scenery in the previous one, so
that's true. Very true. Let's face it, this is the best Doctor Who story John Sim is ever in. Full stop.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's accurate.
Full stop. I wrote some notes, just the horror stuff. Oh God. The shot of Bill getting shot is horrific because it sort of happens in slow motion and everybody looks and realizes what has happened. And the viewer and even Bill herself is the last person to find out, as the camera finally sort of pulls back to reveal the fact that she has a giant hole in her. I thought that was just superbly, horrifically well done. Which
it is. It is until you see the hole, at which point it becomes farcical, and not in a good way farcical. It just looks so. It doesn't look good. It just doesn't look good, and I don't know. You can't really do that scene without it. I don't know if there is a way to make it look good, because at the end of the day, it's somebody with a giant hole through them, without stuff falling out, without blood, without there's stuff that probably wouldn't happen in that way were it a real situation.
Well, it's like Death Becomes Her. You either buy into it or you don't.
I guess. It's unlike Death Becomes Her. At least this is short-lived for that aspect.
True, yes.
But yeah, it's everything up until the point of the reveal is good, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I like the whole... I guess this is going to be more script than it is performance, but the performance stuff is still there. Anyway, the whole mentor-mentee thing that had been kind of developing throughout the series Capaldi, in this case, Capaldi in the TARDIS console room, and Gomez out there, and she's looking around and trying to do the whole, ascertain the situation like the Doctor would, and figuring out all the screens are turned in one direction for one person to use, whereas it should have been a lot of people using them. And just the working out of the details that she has to go through and portray is very enjoyable. On top of the whole exposition and comic relief and whatnot.
That stuff. I do like the monitor stuff. You could tell that there is the same person writing Sherlock, and indeed around the same time, the same person directing Sherlock, because I think Talalay's episode of Sherlock went out around the same time. I lose track of when the Sherlock seasons came out, but
she did the one-off, didn't she? The Whatever Bride?
No, she did the first episode. The
Christmas one?
No, that was Douglas McKinnon. She did the first episode of the fourth season. And I can't remember when that aired.
Okay.
Was it 2018 or I can't remember now? But you can tell that there are similar things going on with Doctor Who and Sherlock, just stylistically and also sort of like plot wise, in the way that they both kind of solve mysteries and stuff. And
she tweeted out that picture of Capaldi on the Sherlock set.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, which is awesome. Did she tweet that out, or did she give it to us? I don't.
She did, because I remember her putting it out. I'd seen it previously because when I interviewed her, she showed me it, and I kept it under my hat until she tweeted it out. I'm like, oh, finally, I can talk about this damn thing.
Finally, you could talk about this thing. Yes, the cry of the internet insider. Yeah.
Well, yes, okay. Glad you've all seen it now.
Yeah.
For Sherlock Series 4 premiered on New Year's Day 2017.
Oh, okay. So maybe it wasn't. Obviously, it wasn't.
So it would have been shot during 2016. So Sherlock would have been shot before this.
Gotcha. Similar stuff.
Just another thing about the horror thing. She shoots. Well, for all the build up to the Mondasian Cybermen and how they're created. I guess that's a writing thing too. But how the Mondasian Cybermen came to be, I thought was interesting in and of itself. Is that there's these weird patients that just kind of come out of this hospital, but if you look at a Mondasian Cyberman, it was kind of ridiculous looking in 1960, whatever it was, 67, I guess.
66, yeah.
66. And the fact they make it horrific and it works somehow is titanically difficult to pull off. And somehow they do it. Like, these things are actually scary, and they shouldn't be, honestly.
I think the fact we get the progression of their development. So we don't just see the final thing. We see them in with the hood over their head and hooked up to the,
and the whole pain thing is perfect.
Hooked up to the machine. And the pain thing is just gorgeous. One of the things that I put in my notes. I think there's too many instances to really call them all out, but there's a lot of stuff shot with darkness and shadow and low light and playing with light, and it all just looks so very good. The pain scene would be one of those. The main one I called out was toward the end of the episode when the Doctor and Nardole are in the conversion operating theater room, and it's all dark, and the Doctor sonics the light over top of the operating table, and that becomes the only light in the room, and it just looks fantastic. And then Bill at the end of the episode, as she comes out of the shadow, there's like there's the kind of shimmery lack of focus thing, and then out of the shadow into the light, and there's just so much playing with that, and that can go very wrong, which it thankfully didn't in this case.
No, it's just the chest lights is what you see. Like, it kind of reminds me of the first shot of the Dalek in Dalek, where it's just the eye stalk shining in the darkness. And all you see is like sort of the glittering, almost Christmassy lights of the rudimentary chest unit out in the dark, and then the Cyberman stands up, and we know it's Bill, but we don't know at the time. It's Capaldi going, "It's a Mondasian Cyberman." Such a great reveal. And you're right, Warren. Just the buildup of how when you see how these Cybermen are built from the ground up, and how they are just basically wrapped up because they are so
how terrible it is.
It's just awful. It's just horrendous. It is the most, it suddenly puts those, like, watch the 10th Planet now, knowing what you know about what you've seen here, and just imagine those Cybermen being basically what, those people in World Enough in Time had to go through. And all of a sudden, like, those crazy, weird Cybermen with like sellotape stuck headsets and everything else, all of a sudden that just becomes, oh my God, this is just horrendous. And, the fact that they have, it's unfortunate in a way that they didn't have just human hands like they do in the 10th Planet. They actually put like sort of surgical gloves on, because I feel like, the human hand thing would have been even more like, oh my God, there's an actual person in there,
It would have had a different effect for sure. But then again, you also take away the whole Bill reveal, as I think you called out 3 years ago when we talked
That's
about
true.
it
Yeah, we'd
place.
see her hands, and obviously that's a black woman's hand. I mean, well, obviously there could be it's probably going to be Bill. It'd be easier to make that leap, certainly. Yeah, so that's probably why they do.
I was just going to say, just to really jump ahead to Twice Upon a Time, the opening stuff from the 10th Planet. You look at those Mondasian Cybermen, which are, the real deal, and you're like, wow, the costumers really did a good job reproducing this stuff.
They did. I mean, there are some things, perhaps some might call them improvements. People like they're a little bit small. The head pieces are a little bit smaller. Oddly enough, the sound effect that they use for the guns that come out of their heads are the same, very similar to the sounds of an Auton walking in Spearhead from Space, which I thought was odd. And I probably said as much at the time back in 2017 when we reviewed it. I thought, it's an interesting misplacement of sound effects there, but
it works though. It's a great sound.
It is such a great sound. Yeah, it is. Like, it's not the laser. It's just them like wow, wow, just sort of like the sound that they make, not the little hand lasers and stuff. But no, all the stuff in the hospital just really got me. Like, it was just so, the build up and just like the shots of the people sitting in the chairs and how dark it is, and the turning up and down of the pain thing. It's just the reaction. The music was good. The building sense of dread to the reveal of the Master. There's sort of like a dual cliffhanger going on, revealing Bill being a Cyberman and also the fact that this other person is the Master. Like, just the way that was paced. And there's a quick, tight little zoom. Not many directors use zooms anymore, and whenever they do, I'm happy. There's a notable zoom happening in the Dr. Falls as well that we'll get to. Those are aspects of it. Yeah, it was just such a, once again, not surprising for Talalay, but just a very visually interesting episode.
To dwell for a moment on that cliffhanger build up and whatnot. The whole Missy at the terminal learning about Mondas and whatever, that felt so drawn out and labored and not fun. But the Master reveal was good. But the best part of all that was there's a sequence where Missy's in the foreground looking at the terminal, and the Master's kind of in the background over her shoulder, out of focus, and they're having a conversation, but the camera never moves. It just changes the focal point back and forth, which was not a common choice, and I thought that looked just very good. I
like when a focus puller does the actions that a editor would do elsewhere. It's not
big 70s thing. People used to love to pull that one on the 70s.
Yeah, I agree. There's a couple of notable uses of freeze frames as well, which I really like the freeze frame of Capaldi doing his Venusian Aikido, which is great. They sort of freeze in the middle of the air. I just thought, just fun little stuff like that it just made for fun. Also, I just wanted to say, I like we talked about last couple weeks about how I've really enjoyed watching Capaldi and Coleman again, and I miss this TARDIS team. The Be Gay Do Crimes TARDIS team, where they just like this trio of misfits, just wandering the universe and getting in trouble. I do wish we had another year worth of this team on screen. I think it would have been a lot of fun, but I cherish the time we got with them. And it was fun watching them again. Anything else on World Enough in Time before we move officially on to Dr. Falls?
Maybe I'm stupid, but I did not clue into it being Sim until near the end. But having said that, I really enjoyed the back and forth between between Pearl Mackie and John Sim. I thought they were great. Their whole weird bonding thing that they were doing down there before he inevitably betrays her. Like, I thought that they did a really good job of that. And that's down to, also down to Talalay and her direction.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. They're like two like weird college roommates in a way, like, or like it was fun to watch them together. It's kind of tragic. You think, oh, whoever this weird fellow is, not at all John Sim, because why would it be him? Look, they look like they're having fun and stuff together. And then you find out that it was, she was interminable to deal with, as the master says later on. But yeah, it's fun. Chris, any final words on World Enough in Time?
No, I think I'm good on that front.
Okay.
Of the two, it's my preferred story.
Versus
the Dr. Falls.
Interesting.
I'm kind of with Chris on that, although I don't hate the Dr. Falls.
No, nor do I. But they as much as they should be taken as a sum of a whole, which maybe they shouldn't, because it's Moffat. Is Heaven Sent Hellbent not the same story?
No.
Pandorica Big Bang, not the same story. So yeah. But of the two, I've always been a bigger fan of World Enough in Time. I think the biggest thing about that was the whole hospital stuff and the development of the Cybermen and the whole pain bit just drove that so much home for me, because I just love the twisted, like, this is Moffat's twisted brain, that if the Cybermen in development, the cyber candidate, whatever, the victim, if they're in pain, you don't deal with the pain, you just mute them. Like, damn, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's a 2020 solution is what that is.
Just turn it down. Just turn it down. As long as we can't hear you complain, then it's fine. Yeah.
Just turn it off like a light switch. It's our neat little Mormon trick.
Yeah, we don't have that kind of stuff in part 2. As Ward said, it's more like a Western in a way, like as Missy even calls it, the Waltons. We could go back and rescue the Waltons, which is odd, because as I was watching that, we were watching an episode of As Time Goes By, that sitcom with Judi Dench and Jeffrey Palmer from the 1990s, and they mentioned the Waltons as well. I hadn't expected the Waltons to be a thing on UK TV, but obviously it was for a certain generation.
I think it was just big everywhere, because it was just big.
I guess so. It's weird what American shows.
It lasted for so long and all that.
That too, but I mean, there are the episode begins with some weirdness. You don't know what's going on. There's a farm. There's a Mondasian Cyberman tied to posts like scarecrows. The ship flies up, and then there's that iconic shot of Bill the Cyberman holding the doctor, who is obviously wounded by something, the typical Moffat pre-credit sequence, hold on to your hats, kids, this is where it gets complicated, that sort of thing. I thought that shot, I think they even used it in publicity as well, which is kind of unfortunate, because it stole the oomph away from seeing that shot for the first time, kind of like it stole the oomph from seeing John Sim as the Master for the first time. Yep. BBC promotions, but that's not Rachel Talalay's fault.
They make up for that with with the scene with John Sim sitting in the window reapplying his guy liner.
That's so great. It's so great. John Sim is amazing in this episode. I love watching him. I felt this is almost like a redemption arc for John Sim's Master, and that he's not the annoying turkey eating villain that we saw.
Jumpy, bouncy, lightning.
Jumpy, weird. Yeah, just, oh, God. Anyway, we went through all of 2020 without having to mention the name of that episode. I'm not going to start mentioning it here, but it was so great to see him in that outfit.
I do love him at Sound of Drums. I'm sorry.
I know, but still, yes. This feels like, because Michelle Gomez's Master is, as she calls it, bananas. It's almost like Sim's Master is more restrained. Oddly enough, Sim becomes more like Delgado, because he knows that he can't up banana Michelle Gomez, But
he also
that's good luck trying.
Yeah.
He also gets to twist the knife at one point when he goes back to the fake accent he put on in World Enough in Time, and sing to Bill how interminable it was to spend the 10 years with her and all that.
I just find it interesting in terms of Masters that up until Eric Roberts, I hate to say this, but they were pretty restrained. And then after Eric Roberts, not so much.
Yeah, it seems to be a thing where...
Ainley had his moments, but...
Yeah, I suppose. But I feel like the cackling supervillain is more of a modern series kind of thing. I'm going to blame Marvel.
And it's fun. Yeah. It's great.
It's fun. Yeah, I'm going to there's a certain Marvel superhero-ness to villains now in Doctor Who, I find, in that they're a little more, Marvel supervillain than they are like sort of classic villain in a way.
I think that has more to do with the cinematic nature of Doctor Who now as opposed to the stagey nature. Like, yes, you're going to get Ainley doing pantomime because that's basically what Doctor Who is at the time.
Very true. Yeah. So it was weird seeing it's almost like they both were like kind of like out restraining each other, like I'm not going to be the one that goes completely nuts in this. Well, I'm not either. So I guess we're both just going to be sort of, it was great.
Well, and they get their chance at the beginning to be all wacky until later than they don't. Like, it's a nice arc too for the both of them. Yeah.
I've got the episode of playing out in my and on my TV right here, and there's a moment that I jotted down in my notes, which I really love. It's when during the recap they do a crash zoom in on Nordal. I love crash zooms. You don't see crash zooms very much at all in TV anymore or film, and when I see them, I point them out because they are cherished and appreciated. So thank you, Rachel Talalay.
Well, the reason you saw them back in the day is because they were the new thing. It's like you'd see them in TV all the time because they could finally afford to do them. It's just like seeing bad CG in the 90s on TV. They could finally afford to do it. So they didn't do it well, but they did do it.
Yeah, I know. Like it was a technical thing. I mean, they could have zooms, and then zooms replaced the notion of like having to push this massive camera in, but now that you've got steady cams or like drones for crying out loud, or like speeding up and editing, like you have a lot more options when it comes to pushing in on a shot. So the zoom can look outdated, but I do feel that it's very, very stylish now when it's used. It's kind of like the dolly zoom,
it's by choice now.
Yeah, exactly. Any opening thoughts on this one, Chris? I'm intrigued by the fact that you liked World Enough in Time so much more than this one, and I'm curious to know why.
It's the story. Let's dig the story more for the first rather than the second. I don't know. I mean, like
nothing else. Just
I think I got some like fatigue in there with like all the battle stuff that just incessant almost, and because there's like all the stuff with the Scarecrow type Cybermen and all the prep for that, and and then later on the actual battles and the blowy epi ground and just
epi ground.
It just got tiresome, and then just as as the same thing continues into and becomes the whole point behind Twice Upon a Time. Just it's like I get the whole not wanting to regenerate and all that kind of stuff, but damn, can we just move on already? And because I got tired of that with Tennant. I got so tired of that with Tennant, and it didn't play any better for Capaldi.
Just the petulance, sort of like
I think we're dancing around the speech, honestly. That's the showcase of this whole thing, is that speech, which is mostly down to Capaldi, but damn is it good. And it doesn't work as well without the two of them. Like without Gomez showing that she, or as the Master or Missy, showing that she feels actual emotions and grief or remorse, and then Sim not doing that and not taking it away from her somehow. Like it totally works. And it's all down to the three of them. And I feel like a bit of it feels improv. like when Capaldi goes, "You'll die too," and I'm just like, that doesn't sound like that was scripted. That sounds like something he just kind of threw in there that worked. Don't get me wrong, but it feels like that was an improv bit.
It's right. It's not like a proper speech to say. It's more of him just like sort of making a stand and just sort of like just letting it all out at this point. So there's not really a lot of rhyme or reason.
And it's beautiful. It's everything Doctor Who's about. It's perfect, actually.
I know it is, and I think it was Murray Gold who suggested that there be no music for that. I think maybe Talalay said, "Let's, what are we going to do for music?" And Murray Gold said, "Nothing. I don't think we should put anything on here." And I think it works because of that. I think it's just those three actors and just on the Stark countryside, and they're just having it out, and it's mostly Capaldi doing his speech and stuff, hoping for hopefully one last time, trying to get them to help him, and fails, of course. But I do like that John Sim, you can almost tell that he's kind of like, that did affect me. I can't let it look like it did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so he almost overcompensates his reaction to him,
Before it escapes my brain, one Missy Master scene I want to quickly throw out there that is quite enjoyable is when Nardle's in the pilot seat for the shuttle, and I guess is near the start, because before Bill restrains them or whatever. Anyway, Nardle's in the pilot seat for the shuttle, and so the Sim Master climbs into the cockpit and says, "The doctor's dead, and he said he never liked you in the first place." And then 5 seconds later, Missy climbs in the back seat and says, "The doctor's dead, and he said he never liked you in the first place." I just love that tandem thing.
Yeah, because of course they both is, and Nardle goes, "Yeah, we covered that." Just the comic timing there.
I gotta say, Chris is saying that it goes on more than the episode that shall not be named, and it does a bit. But I also feel like it has an air of finality too that episode that shall not be named does not have. You just go, okay, where is this going? Okay, keep going with this. Meeting all your former companions, blah blah blah. This doesn't do that. This feels like from the outset there's a palpable feeling of doom to the whole thing, which I think really works in its favor.
Yeah, and I like the fact that it's, I still like having watched these two again, and then of course Twice Upon a Time, although it's kind of evident already that he's in the process of about to being to regenerate. I still don't know, like there's no definitive, there's no definitive moment where here's the doctor fine, and here's the doctor that causes him to regenerate. It's just this gradual process, and I still don't know what it is, but there is a certain. He starts walking with a walking stick. He's like sort of like gives off a couple bits of regenergy a couple times there, like, and he's just slowly fading out, more or less. His old body is wearing a bit thin.
At one point, he gets shot by a Cyberman. I can't remember which one.
It's towards the end of Dr. Falls. But I mean, before that though, like when he's walking through the woods with Bill, like he sort of has to lean against a tree, and he goes, "Oh, my hand starts to regenerate a little bit." And Bill goes, "What's that?" Which is odd, given that she saw him do that earlier in the season there as a joke. But
he could have been holding that back from the Monk trilogy. Maybe because he faked it and it backfired on him. He's been holding it back this whole time.
Yeah. I mean, I do like that, though. I like the fact that, or maybe it was when the Cyberman, I'm just watching it now in front of me, when the Cyberman sort of, electrocutes him more or less by hugging him to death from behind before Bill sort of shoots. That could have been it. It's a combination of things. But Capaldi being Capaldi plays that sort of, wounded warrior aspect of his character so well that it doesn't look like he's like it's a sudden decline. He's just like, I am very gradually sort of losing it here, and
exactly, yeah.
And he plays it so well. But we are skipping. I think we might have mentioned it earlier. Chris did maybe the shot of Bill seeing herself in the mirror, and the shot of her touching her hair, and then the camera panning down, and now it's a Cyberman. Both those shots are 100% done in camera. There is no visual effects trickery going on. There's no post-production or anything. They are 100% camera tricks. I watched those. I still haven't figured out how they did it, and I am very appreciative of camera trickery like that.
You had spoken earlier about the doesn't play well person of color getting shot in, and having a giant hole in them thing. But the scene with the woman, I'm sure she's got a name. The character, I'm sure she's got a name,
right,
but I don't know what it is. Anyway, when she's in there and she's like all afeared and backing away and all that kind of stuff, you could totally read that scene as like if it was like in the dark past where where a white person didn't trust a
that's
person
an
of
extra
color.
layer of discomfort.
Other than, at least thankfully, there are other people of color within the community of people to, kind of take that aspect away somewhat.
There are, but that is, sometimes they probably look at it, Bill's a Cyberman, and that's the main point of it. Whereas really what we're seeing is Bill's a black woman.
Oh, it is. It totally is. But there's
unfortunate.
And let's not forget, this is the second time they've done this to a black character.
That too, I don't know. I mean, I hope that they've being the people who made it, they went through a lot of steps to have what came out on screen be a thing. I would hope that they would have learned that isn't okay. I didn't, as I said before, I didn't pick up on it at the time. I'm more thinking Bill's a Cyberman, and they're obviously seeing the Cyberman.
Mea culpa on it.
Yeah. But now I see it, and it wasn't good. And maybe that's an aspect of direction too, that perhaps, maybe we should do this another way. Maybe, it's a way of getting Bill on screen, because it's lovely seeing Pearl Mackie act, because she's awesome. But in retrospect, would it have been easier, or perhaps would it have been easier for us to explain it away if it was just a Cyberman the whole time, and we're not really watching that scene through Bill's eyes? She still thinks she's herself,
Yeah, and that's the extra layer that goes with that all as well. Is Bill's but it's part amnesia, part denial. But Bill just refuses to accept and or doesn't remember the conversion and all that kind of stuff, as we find out. But it's where we're seeing Bill as she sees herself versus the character seeing Bill as the Cyberman, and it plays on multiple levels.
I love Nardol's goodbye scene. I think it's great. I think it's well acted. I think it's somewhat touching. I think it's notable because it's a companion in modern who basically leaves to help a bunch of people escape. It's very classic Doctor Who. It's very Steven stays behind to sort of lead the savages and the savages. A universe isn't torn apart. A woman isn't torn apart and having to fly off as a water beast somewhere in the universe. Massive, crazy circumstances haven't had to have been enacted in order to have a companion leave. And I just found that refreshing, and therefore much more touching, the fact that they are parting on their own terms in a way. And I thought it was just well shot and well acted.
I mean, I don't know how else you do the whole Bill thing, becoming the water creature and hanging out with her girlfriend, but it just seems so stapled on. It just really did. It's like, I'm not as good a writer as Stephen Moffat. I can't tell you a better way to do it.
You're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong. It feels like it's a little bit, pull the rabbit out of the hat kind of thing. But by the same token, it's all set up in the pilot. Like it really shouldn't come as a surprise. It feels like a bookend.
Feels like a bookend, but not a great bookend. Uneven one, maybe.
Yeah, because it feels. It feels like it's sort of been done in the way that Clara has, been taken out from the last moments of her death, and now she's flying around with another lady in space, and that's exactly what's happened to Bill. I mean, Steve Moffat thought that he was done probably at the end of Husbands of River Song, and so this is about a season of Stephen Moffat Doctor Who, and to come up with an entirely new way of not only introducing characters but also writing them out, because he had a companion that had to go after one season because the new regime was taking over. There are some sort of repeated memes, I think, in Series 10. That doesn't diminish my enjoyment of it a bit, but I think the ending of Bill is the same. They do kind of paint themselves into a corner by having her die and having that be the focal point of the episode and the inspiration of the Doctor to try and save her. And then, of course, he really doesn't eventually do it. She becomes a Cyberman and then gets rescued by Water Girl. So, yeah.
But it I was going to say, but it helps to grease the wheels for the story of Twice Upon a Time.
That's true.
Which sounds like a segue to go over there, and maybe it is, but there's two very quick things I just want to call out for some camera shots that are in the Doctor Falls. One near the start, one near the end. The one near the start is just the footage around the countryside and the house and whatever, which I assume was a drone, most likely to be a drone,
Probably.
But it just looked really nice. And then just before Capaldi leaves the TARDIS, near the end of the episode, there's a sequence where the camera is up on the upper level around the perimeter, and it just does a tracking shot around, I don't know, maybe 60 or 80 degrees of the perimeter, and it just it just looks really nice because it just gets everything in frame, and just you can see the scope and breadth of the console room, which we kind of see again when the first Doctor enters the Capaldi TARDIS as well.
Yeah.
In Twice Upon a Time.
Yeah, we've spoken often about how Talalay loves that console room, and
can shoot it like nobody's business.
It's true, very true.
No, any last thoughts on Dr. Falls, Warren?
No, I think we pretty much covered it.
Okay. You enjoy it. Do you enjoy it more than perhaps Chris does with all the action and stuff?
Yeah, I like them both. I wouldn't say they're my tip-top favorites. I mean, they're not Heaven Sent and Hell Bent, but what is really? But they're still decent enough stories. And they're well shot and they're well directed. And yeah, anything Missy's in, I'll watch because she's funnier than hell.
Definitely. Twice Upon a Time. Oh boy, this one, I tell you, I don't know. I think I probably saw this the last time was like Christmas 2017. I remembered very little of this episode, which is why I didn't take many notes for this one, because I was like, oh, right, that happens in this episode. I just sort of remembered that, like, obviously it's those two doctors and stuff. And then for a second there, I almost forgot that Mark Gatiss was in it, for crying out loud. Like,
it's quite a warm cup of cocoa, really, if you wanted to describe it as something. Because it's not, it's inoffensive and it's not terrible or anything. It's just kind of there.
Very much a coda. Very much a coda. Not just to Capaldi's time on Doctor Who, but to Moffat's time on Doctor Who, let's face it. And, it's...
But not as overly complicated as Time of the Doctor, where they just stuff everything in to get the era finished.
They do, yeah. This I feel like everything's sort of been stuffed in already. And this is definitely just sort of like Capaldi's Doctor dealing with, dying, essentially. I also find that, watching it going, there's a lot of deep cuts here. There's a lot of references.
Oh, they're ridiculous. Gatiss must have been giggling the whole time.
Just like, can I write this one instead, please? Yeah. But yes, with the 10th Planet stuff. I mean, I don't think we've ever... I'm trying to think, are they on the Blu-ray or not? But I remember seeing clips of the reproductions, because I shot redone scenes from the 10th Planet, but today with the new cast, and they used next to none of them. They just used black and white versions of the originals, which I found a lot of work went into the reproductions, and they weren't eventually used.
The last time I watched this would have probably been about a year and a half or so ago when I watched the Capaldi Blu-ray set, and yes, I too seem to remember some of those extra 10th Planet substitutions being on there.
Okay, good. That's good stuff, because, it's intriguing.
I mean, I'm not the world's biggest fan of the First Doctor era, but I think they do a great job of paying tribute to the First Doctor era. And just to jump to the very end, more or less, I think David Bradley's regeneration scene is fantastic.
It is nice, isn't it? There's a redemption to both characters. I think he's kind of played for laughs a bit because he's from the 60s and he's going to be a bit racist, but then he is a little bit sexist and stuff, and he sort of comes around, I guess, a little bit. But some people, I think, took that as like, oh, why are we laughing at the Doctor like this? I thought it was kind of but again, it was kind of the show laughing at itself a wee bit. I think about how things were.
They make
in
up
the
for
60s.
it when he's talking to Bill, or what appears to be Bill.
Yeah.
And he explains why he left Gallifrey. I think that part's perfect. It's really great. It really explains well, like what it's all about.
It is. And one of the, so, I've probably only watched this maybe 3 or 4 times total, including for this. And I don't know what happened in the past versus earlier today, but there just seemed to be today just more nuance of the story coming out, or me observing the nuance of the story, I should say. And the whole point of testimony is to take this dying person and get their testimony, get their life story, get their reasoning and their rationales and all that kind of stuff. And it just, I just love how the story. Sorry, we're not talking about Talalay here, I know, but I just love how the story just gets all three of the main characters. So Lethbridge Stewart and the first and 12th Doctors. There's just this very subtle transition into them giving their testimony, and that scene that Warren spoke of is the first Doctor doing his, and it's just so subtle and touching, and just very endearing in general. And I love Gaddis's performance when he's doing his, Bradley's performance when he's doing his. It's just nice.
It is nice. The whole episode is just kind of nice, isn't it? Like there's no real evil going on.
Yeah, 20 minutes before the end of the show, it's like, oh, there wasn't really anything bad happening here. This is kind of cool.
Like there's no evil plan. Like, I don't even know what to do here, basically Capaldi says when he meets Rusty there.
Although I do, speaking of reactions and whatnot, because obviously the first Doctor has no idea what is coming after his time, and the 12th Doctor has lived a very full life, relatively speaking. The sequence with all the little bubbles floating around in the air with the various doctors and scenarios and baddies and whatever, and the summation of the Doctor of War, and just the reaction, just the look on Bradley's
he's just appalled.
face.
Yeah, it's great.
He's like, what in the F have you done with my life?
Plus, I also think that set, which again is not Talalay, but that set looks like if the first Doctor era had the money, they would have built that.
It reminds me so much of the Empress of Mars and the all the Ice Warrior tombs going, like the CG Ice Warrior tombs going up.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of sets, I've just sort of got it playing out in front of me, and there's Lethbridge Stewart's little testimony there in the TARDIS, and just the, that set, seeing it again. I know we just sort of saw it in Hellbent, but it feels like the first Doctor set this time around, and I do like that it's sort of like less frenetic in there, because we didn't get frenetic in the 1960s, and so there's a sort of calm serenity to that set anyway. And just the quiet, slow shots. I love the sort of the rack focus from Mark Gatiss sitting afar on the chair, and then it like racks right close to the clock, that famous clock that's sort of sitting in the same room. I mean, there's just some really nice pensive shots. There's not a lot of action-y kind of things that's required in this episode. It's very much, as I say, like a coda, like two old men sort of coming to terms with themselves a little bit, and I think the direction sort of speaks to that.
And it's nice that it's just Mark Gatiss, Lethbridge Stewart, and Bill, and then that's also the scene, of course, where Bill goes to reach for the brandy or whatever it is, and that's where we see the translucent hand to know that she's part of testimony. So it's expository as well.
Yeah, very quick if you miss it kind of thing. Yeah. I enjoyed seeing this, but it was also kind of sad because, it's obviously Peter Capaldi bowing out of Doctor Who. Him and his amazing hair. Goodness me, I forget how big the hair was in that episode.
I like how his hair gets separate billing.
Yeah, it really does.
It's Peter Capaldi, dressing room.
David
That's
Brown.
true.
Yeah, and the hair. I just thought it was just nice. Yeah. It was just a nice, perhaps because we knew it was Capaldi's finale. I don't think if it was just like a standard Christmas episode and it didn't have a regeneration at the end or something, I feel like maybe we'd be treating it with a little less reverence, knowing that it was like, oh, really, that's what we got. But I feel just because of its coda nature to the end of many different eras, I give this one a little more leeway, I think, when it comes to episodes.
I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really boring way to answer, but I would agree.
No, it's fine. My favorite aspect of the story though is the 1914 Christmas Truce, which is I didn't expect. And just when you think that Doctor Who has sort of done all the Christmas tropes or the Christmas episodes, they bring that out, which is probably my favorite Christmas historical event. The fact that they worked that in for a Christmas episode, which is not mentioned anywhere. That's what I liked about it, is that, past Christmas episodes sort of go, hey, it's Christmas. Look at that. It's Christmas. Okay. Now that that's mentioned, on with the regular episode at hand. This one does the opposite. There's no mention of Christmas until the very end, which I
Are you saying this is a better portrayal of that event than the Pipes of Peace video by Paul McCartney from the mid '80s?
I haven't seen that video.
He plays both the German and the British. It's pretty cheeseball.
I didn't know that, but that's when he was
But
playing
did he
himself.
have Toby Whithouse as?
He plays
but
both
did that have
German
Toby
and the
Whithouse?
Brits. Yes.
Yeah, as German Paul McCartney. No.
Droopy mustache.
Yeah, because it just the lower third just says Ypres 1914. It doesn't say anything about Christmas.
Not at
right?
all. No.
When we were watching it earlier, Kat made a remark about the color and the grading of the World War I scenes and how they're kind of well washed out ish, and it almost looks like it's a colorized black and white thing, not unlike what Peter Jackson was doing.
Oh yeah.
Rather than, because everything was just so flat and brown, and of course with Gaddis's testimony stuff earlier, just a kind of parallel to that is when they first go into the console room and the 12th Doctor mentions World War One, and
Yes.
just the look on Gaddis's
I
face
know.
is like, what do you mean one? That's just
Yeah.
such a heartbreaking, sad scene.
It's terrible because as with pretty much every war, like, oh, we'll be home in time for Christmas. That's the first year of the war. It's right around Christmas. They're clearly not going home, and they think we're doing all this to this is the Great War, the war to end all wars. We'll be done after this, right? No, 20 years later, you have to do it all again, and it's even worse.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some tragedy involved in the story, but
I'm just
it's
thinking about
awfully nice.
the ending.
It's awfully nice.
Is there a better regeneration? Like I really love the Smith into Capaldi one although I think the bit where he actually regenerates into Capaldi is just sort of, I guess necessarily, it's just sort of happenstance, I guess. But this one I think really works on the Capaldi side and the Whittaker side of it.
Capaldi gets a lot of time to grandstand.
Yes, he does.
Before the regeneration actually happens.
Yeah.
Is there a better one? Yeah, probably. I think I prefer the Matt Smith one, just like the whole, dropping the bow tie on the floor and just the wistfulness.
Yeah, that stuff is
all that
pretty
kind of
great.
stuff.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's also more impactful that Clara is there with him rather than Capaldi being alone in the console
Yes.
room. And,
But all the stuff with Jodie, I think, is great. Just the way they reveal her with the monitor and all that stuff, and the ring
Oh my
falling
God,
off,
yes.
that stuff's perfect.
Yeah.
that is so shot so well. Just all the all the cheats, all the you're almost gonna see it, but oh no, you don't get to see it yet, and then you finally see it, and it just whets the appetite. It builds up this anticipation.
It's so, that regeneration, you're right. Capaldi does go on. It's fun to see him, I like his last lines. Once again, the Doctor regenerating blows up a TARDIS because why not? But, I love how everything just changes, just wallops right down. It's not like, the TARDIS is about to blow up. It's not like Matt Smith going, what's happening here and stuff like that at the end of his regeneration from David Tennant. I love that it's all slow. It's all just really quiet shots from behind. You hear Murray Gold's for the last time because it's his finale as well. He's that doo 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 doo. Never has that music seemed more appropriate because it's a woman singing and we have a new woman doctor. And you're right. Totally. I love how she discovers that she has regenerated into a woman when we do. And it
has a big smile on her face.
I know, brilliant. I just thought, oh God, yeah, what a, it was important for, it was great that Rachel Talalay got to direct it because of the regeneration scene, but it was important to have a woman director direct the first scene of a woman Doctor Who, I think, as well.
Like I said, that's an excellent first bit. it's a lot better than, I don't know, let's say Colin Baker to Sylvester McCoy, for instance.
a wee bit, but...
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it was noteworthy. Yeah, I like that. I like that episode. It was fun. I could have even seen more 1 and 12 scenes together because I thought they were a fine little duo and stuff. But
I think it worked as a pairing. It worked quite well because you've got the first, you've got the last, or current, however you want to phrase it, and they have all the stuff about the first Doctor pretending not to know who the 12th is, and the 12th is all the time. He's like, you know who I am. Come on, you know who I am. Just But it's a hell of a good pairing, and because especially considering if you think of Capaldi's age versus Hartnell's age, and there's the little bit about the first Doctor saying, "I thought I'd be younger when I regenerated," and Capaldi screams at him, "I am younger," even though he probably wasn't. But
no,
some good stuff.
Good stuff indeed. Well, I'm going to ask probably the most controversial question I think we've had here in the last 3 weeks, and it's this: if asked, would we want Rachel Talalay to return to direct?
I'm not going to
Doctor Who?
dignify that with a response. You know the answer.
Yeah.
Make her a showrunner. Why the hell not?
That's a loaded question.
Very loaded question. Obviously,
I'm pretty sure she doesn't want to be a showrunner.
Come back to Doctor Who, Rachel Talalay. All is forgiven. Not that we ever had any problem with anything. Goodness me, we are so lucky to have a director of such noteworthy talent on Doctor Who for as often as we have. And yes, obviously, we'd like her to come back and do more.
Especially because for I guess both positive and negative implications, she is going to forever be tied to Moffat and to Capaldi and to finales, and all that kind of stuff. And it's like it's like bring in your DH at the end of the ball game or something, just to hit that last home run to
why the hell not
end the game. Yeah, put it out, take it out on a high note.
60th anniversary episode with PCAP, Jodie Whittaker.
Sounds good to me.
Jodie Whittaker's successor, perhaps, and that'll get Talalay back to directing. There you go, written in stone. Well, I hope you enjoyed the Miniscopes, everyone. We're off to do other things, I think, but for the next few weeks on this podcast. But the Miniscope will return, and when it does return, it will be with a new victim slash what's the victim? I didn't say victim. We rarely really dig into people anymore.
Study. How about that? Yeah,
subject in the Miniscope. So, Chris, you've got the randomizer open, do you?
It's ready to go.
Excellent. Begin the spinning of it now. There it goes. Off.
There it goes.
Off. Nice little hum there from Dick Mills.
We still have one last remaining composer on the list.
Still sitting there, still on the board.
Never know, we might get Kerry Blayton.
Might get him. I've been dreading it, I have to say, because I don't know what to say about it other than we say he would definitely be a victim. I'm going to say it right now, he would be a victim in the Miniscope. Should we get him? Should we get him? We'll see. Here goes, Chris. Stop.
Barry Letts.
Nice.
Barry Letts as director.
Interesting.
We should clarify,
because have we had Barry Letts and Robert Sloman? Have we had this?
No, Sloman and Letts are still in there secondarily as writers.
Fascinating.
So
we've only ever talked about Barry Letts as producer on this show, and now we get him as director. Interesting.
Yeah. So we get some Enemy of the World. We get some. If you want to talk about Talalay directing season-ending stories.
Yeah, pretty much. Let me see here. Enemy of the World. You could almost said he directed Inferno, but we won't, because he worked off the camera script of Douglas Campion before he went down with a heart condition. Terror of the Autons. What else did he do? I think Carnival of Monsters, and then I think Planet of the Spiders, and then the Android Invasion. So we got some winners in there, folks. We got some winners. So You've got them all. You got them all. Yep. We got them all. So the next time the Miniscope returns, Barry Letts at long last gets his time in the Miniscope. Oddly enough, the Miniscope, the very episode in which it actually featured.
In time, I guess, whenever we get him as writer with Sloman, they also wrote Planet of the Spiders. So we get to talk about the same person and the same story from two different perspectives.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun, isn't it? So much fun. All right, folks, until next time on this here podcast, Radio Free Skaro, I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
So long for now.
You've been listening to Radio Free Skaro. Find us online at radiofreeskaro.com, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr at Radio Free Skaro, subscribe to us on iTunes, and donate to the show at patreon.com/Radio Free Skaro. Thank you.